Well, hello everyone. Let's talk about the healing journey and repeating of cycles. What that all looks like. What it all look like. So, I was asked about how someone would begin on their healing journey. And I don't really have a direction for you, but I can say where I started at is with childhood traumas. Childhood traumas, teenage traumas, middle adulthood traumas all interact with each other. What you learn as a child comes out later in your 20s, between the 20, 25 to 30 era. You go through a repeated cycle. And mind you, and I'm going to say this could be in anything, whether it's relationships, a job, whether or not you were consistent with being able to hold a job, depending on the type of household you grew up in. I grew up in a household where my mother did not work. So a work ethic wasn't something that was generally seen through her, but I did see it through people that she went around. So I had other people who I may have looked up to as adults who had a work ethic. But as children, we get to see everything. We get to see how relationships work, and you view all of these relationships and how they work through the people that you're around the most. It's more likely it's going to be your mother, her siblings, if they had a good relationship going back and forth between their homes, and of course, any of the people she considered as friends, associates, however. Again, like I said, I started with childhood traumas. For everybody, childhood traumas are different. I do not know everybody's childhood traumas. I had my own issues that I had to work out from childhood. And the biggest one of all was probably child molestation and rape. That was like my biggest one. And then somewhere after that, it had something to do with physical abuse, domestic abuse. Jesus, it was so many different things. But when you're trying to really heal, you have to heal what made you, what brought out the worst part of you, what made you feel like you was never going to overcome something. And I think the things that make you feel like you aren't going to overcome something is usually the thing that happened to you that silenced you as a child. Because a lot of things can silence you as a child, but you have to figure out which one weighed in more. And 9 times out of 10, you all know which one weighed in more, because if you journeyed the way that I journeyed and you got into drinking and hanging out with certain people, because I've gone through groups of different people at different times in my life. I hung out with the people who drink because guess what? They're not going to ever hold you accountable for being a drunk. Matter of fact, you can always depend on them. I could pull up on them still today, baby. I guarantee you. If I don't have the money to get a drink, I can go where my friends that were that do have the money to get a drink, because baby, that's what they do. And they gonna have one for you, because nobody is going to want to sit around a person and not offer them a drink, and you're not drinking with them because it makes them uncomfortable about themselves. Also, so, like I said, start with your childhood traumas. Maybe if you start there, you can kind of see a consistent pattern of what happened in your teenage years and how that all worked out for you, or the slips and the falls. And don't get too deep into your teenage years about what you did, how you did. Baby, we was all still learning then. Do y'all know your brain doesn't even completely understand anything for real? It can't even accompany you in making better decisions until after you're 25. Now, granted, I don't know if men work the same because we always say it take y'all damn near until y'all 35, 40 just to get some maturity in you. But then that is not true for every male out there. So don't take that standard. I'm just saying some of y'all I know that I've known personally still ain't grown up yet, and you're probably damn near 60. But at the end of the day, yeah, the brain works in a very funny way. So, in order for you to have a level of maturity, you would have had to have a household that stood on business and made you read books. And not only made you read the books, they also had to enact and teach you everything that you needed to know. We know we all did not grow up in households like that. Yes, our mothers, made sure we had a place to stay, a roof over our head, food to eat. Um, Let me say, because yeah, my mom wasn't a big mover. We didn't move a lot, but the times that we did move, I mean, for the most part, I think I stayed in a place as longer than most people that I've known. So that was never an inconsistent thing for me. That's probably why you don't see me moving. I have not moved. I usually be in the same place for now this place probably going on 30 years. So like I said, it's trauma doesn't mean it was all bad, and trauma doesn't mean it was all good. You have to literally go through, clean up what the bad looked like to you, and figure out what the good looked like to you. And you have to remember that I said teenage years, I think, is the real learning curve. But because of what happens to you before you are even able to get to the teenage years, kind of makes you feel like you've been doing it all alone, but you really haven't. Because, like I said, the complexity of the mind is so different when you're under the age of 10. Under the age of 10 is not adult. Being 10 is not an adult. Most of us don't even get our periods as women until we're around the ages of 11 or 12. Yes, some get them at 10. Those more advanced, hormones do come out in certain things. But most experiences that are real experiences happen in your teenage years. I'm not saying that that's not for rape, that's not for child molestation. That's a whole nother topic. I'm not going to delve into just those parts right now. I'll walk y'all through that at a later time. But what I'm saying is the traumas that you experience in your household, the traumas that you experience with your mother and your parents, however, all the traumas are real traumas. Go back and look in your 20s and see if you've seen a repeat of traumas that weren't your traumas, but you repeated them because that's what you learned at home. In my situation, I'll give you one. I ended up getting with a man after spending my whole childhood saying I would never get with a man who would put his hands on me, who wanted to fight me, this, that, and the other. You should never say never, because I sure the fuck did. I got with a motherfucker that all he did was want to fight women and beat on them and this and that and the other. And it was nothing that any of these women had honestly done to him. That was his way of expressing himself and having control of the situation. Yes, coward. Yes, messed up. Yes, abuse, domestic abuse, mental abuse, this, that, this, that. And the thing is, it still was learned somewhere and it was acceptable somewhere. Because as soon as we sit around these new generation of kids and are accepting of the shit that we wasn't supposed to be accepting of, then we're teaching them that it's okay to be in those type of relationships. Granted, I stayed 20 years. My kids grew up in that traumatized situation. I made it seem like it was an okay situation by showing them that I could fight back. But fighting back is never the win-win situation in that situation. You know what I'm saying? The win-win? No, it's a whole loss. Everything's a loss. But I go deeper in on that a little bit later. Again, you can't even heal from childhood traumas while you're going through trauma. So just know that if you're going through something right now, work that out first. Work that out first on God. It's a lot. It'd be a lot. But a repeat of cycles is a number of different things. And I believe um, I had to I had to repeat a lot of things in life. And I mean, I connected all the dots back to one thing, and you wouldn't believe how incredibly feeble-minded we are. How you could break a cycle, how you could really break a cycle if you see it. If you don't see it, then you're going to keep repeating it. Um, if you don't acknowledge traumas, when people come into the presence of you and something about them irritates your soul, you need to figure out what that is inside of you that is going on, because it's unless that person directly, physically, some way, form or style harmed you in your past, that's different. We know why your soul's irritated. We know why your spirit's releasing and acting crazy. But if no one's done nothing to you, then you need to go within yourself and figure out what it is about you, what it is about you that needs to be worked on. All right, that's my time because it's not even going to let me post this whole video here. I will come back and finish a little later. Y'all have a blessed day.